When people talk about the foundational pillars of JRPGs, Dragon Quest is often the first name that comes up. It's the blueprint. It's the primordial ooze which all of these great franchises emerged. Final Fantasy, Persona, Suikoden. But while the genre has twisted and turned, reinvented, redefined, evolved, devolved over the decades, Dragon Quest has largely stayed the same. So here's the question. Can a series survive or even thrive by never truly changing? Is it timeless, or is it just trapped in time? Depending on who you ask, that's either comforting or frustrating. From the moment Dragon Quest dropped in 1986, and I will be saying Dragon Quest, I won't be going back and forth between Dragon Warrior and Dragon Quest, whatever. It's Dragon Quest. It established a design language that prioritized just straightforward storytelling, charming characters, and traditional turn-based combat. Even now, Dragon Quest XI, which has released more than 3 decades later, proudly uses virtually the same battle system and tone. There's a strong argument to be made that it's intentional, a choice and not a limitation, which, seeing as the technology today is so great, it's obviously a choice. Yuji Horii, the series creator, has always been very adamant about accessibility. For him, Dragon Quest was meant to be a game your parents, your little brother or sister, or somebody completely new to the genre could just pick up and play without needing a tutorial that looked like a tax form. So in that respect, yes, Dragon Quest has succeeded. It's comfort food, like a bowl of rice and curry for my British and Indian friends. For me, meatloaf and mashed potatoes for my Midwestern friends of the United States. It's reliable, nostalgic, and timeless. But what happens when you eat the same meal for 35 years? While most entries in this series stuck to tradition, Dragon Quest X, which was the MMO, was the bold outlier. It released in 2012, and it's still only available in Japan. It traded the classic single-player formula for a full-fledged online experience. Suddenly, players were building parties with real humans, exploring a shared world, and taking on quests in a more flexible, persistent environment. It wasn't just a multiplayer gimmick. The combat was reworked, the progression was more open, and player choice had a deeper impact on your role in the world. In many ways, Dragon Quest X felt like a glimpse into what Dragon Quest could become if it were allowed to evolve and meet modern RPG expectations halfway, if that. But here's the kicker. Despite its boldness and long-running success in Japan, Square never brought it west, and that sucks for Western players. Many fans of the mainline series never played it, they never will play it, they have never experienced its changes, and never saw that Dragon Quest could in fact be experimental. It was like the franchise had just one wild night out, then quietly returned home to its slippers and tea, or in my case, slippers and chocolate milk. I'm just kidding. My daughter's been on a giant chocolate milk kick, so I've been drinking a lot of chocolate milk lately. And then let's talk about Dragon Quest XI. It's polished, gorgeous, and arguably the best execution of this classic formula. But for many, and I would include myself in that many, it felt very safe. I know. There's little risk in its narrative structure. The character arcs or world building, it leans heavily on nostalgia, from familiar monster designs to a world map that literally could have just been pulled straight out of the NES era or Super NES era, depending on your age. And combat, while it was slick and beautifully animated, remains a traditional turn-based affair with very few surprises, like no job system twists, no risky status mechanics, or significant AI improvements in party behavior. No, it was just solid, serviceable combat. Compared that to what other franchises have been doing, Final Fantasy went from a pure turn-based combat system to a real-time action game, which I don't love. Persona injected social sim mechanics and stylish UI flair into its JRPG mold. Xenoblade just has this massive open world and a pretty cool battle system, which is, it's not completely unique, but it is fairly unique in the genre. Meanwhile, Dragon Quest doubled down on being classic. And yes, it's classic, but that's where the strength comes in. In a gaming landscape that is just flooded with microtransactions, everybody's favorite thing, convoluted UIs and over-designed systems, Dragon Quest is actually refreshingly pure in that sense. It doesn't feel the need to keep up with trends. It doesn't care about cinematic bombast or edgy anti-heroes or edgy storylines. It's just Dragon Quest. The games are steeped in that Akira Toriyama charm. It has a lot of like these funny puns, you know, like iconic slimes, iconic characters and enemies, and lovable goofballs. There's a real warmth to the series. A gentle storytelling pace that's more storybook than epic saga. And for players burned out on constant reinvention, Dragon Quest is like coming home. But the risk of never evolving is stagnation. You can only polish the same formula so many times before even like the diehard fans start to feel that repetition. And with younger generations growing up on more dynamic and risk-taking JRPGs, Dragon Quest risks becoming a museum piece. Respected but no longer relevant. So what would meaningful evolution look like for Dragon Quest? It's not abandoning turn-based combat or its lighthearted tone, but innovating within those guardrails. Things like branching story paths that change the world based on player decisions, party AI customization to bring strategy and personality into battles. Do I need to glaze the gambit system anymore? Interactive overworld mechanics, kind of like Zelda, a little bit of puzzle solving, job systems or class trees that offer meaningful progression systems. Modern UI or difficulty options, maybe. You know, I kind of like the classic UI look and difficulty. I mean, is anybody really out here struggling with Dragon Quest? I mean, it doesn't need to be Final Fantasy 16. I'm just throwing things out there, you know, but it could take a few more chances. Look, Dragon Quest is a symbol of a bygone era, and that's completely okay. Not every single game needs to chase modernity, but the line between being timeless and being stuck in time is very thin. If the franchise wants to continue resonating with older fans and new audiences, it might be time to shake things up just a little bit. Because while comfort food is always welcome, sometimes you just need to spice it up with a new ingredient. Even curry or meatloaf evolves. But does meatloaf evolve? I don't know, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would you change Dragon Quest at all? Or would you change it a little bit? Or do you think it just needs a drastic overhaul? Me, I think it just needs slight changes, right? the branching storyline paths system. Maybe like class trees or job systems would be really cool. I don't know, but when I played Dragon Quest XI, it felt too samey as every other Dragon Quest game I've played. You know, I feel like Dragon Quest might be a game where I have to take like a 10-year break in between playing it, because I need to forget what Dragon Quest is like to enjoy the new Dragon Quest, because it's so much like the old games. And by the way, this is not this video, but there are a lot of games and franchises that have that same problem. Just let me know what you think about the direction of Dragon Quest and what you would do. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you all for tuning in, and God bless.